Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. Yes, I am in the middle here of working. Jesus Christ. Working on this stupid project. I can't even. Okay. I'm just gonna rant for a second before we dive into the video. I have this project, like it's huge. Actually thinking of doing a video on explaining how to do this because I am gonna post this project on my LinkedIn at some point. Anyway, can we just talk about the fact that my professor literally posted the directions to this project on Wednesday and the project is due Saturday? How does that make sense? Why would you ever post, this is a really long and tedious thing. Duh, all finance stuff is long and tedious. Why would you post a long and tedious project due on Saturday on Wednesday after 5? That only gives me technically 2 full days to do it. And then it has to be done by Saturday, right? Because I'm submitting it on Saturday. Oh, I apologize. Anyway, let's dive into the topic here. This kind of breakdown. So this stuff happens to me all the time, and everybody thinks my life is so perfect, and it is. I am perfect. No, I'm just kidding. I fancy myself, Lorelai Gilmore said it the best, I fancy myself Superwoman, and I do, I really do. And I am, at times. I've accomplished a lot in a really short period of time. But I do get frustrated. I get frustrated at things that I don't necessarily have control over, like this stupid project. How, I'm an overachiever. I work ahead. I was working on this on Sunday, the Sunday prior to, Saturday that it was due. And then the instructions come out on Wednesday, and then I have to redo the entire assignment, and that kind of stuff gets me upset. But this is how I talk about it. I kind of make it a joke, so people don't realize how irritated I actually am, because why would I, you complain about it, you rant about it, but then it's over, I can't tell everybody about how frustrated I am with the project, because it's not necessarily going to help. It's not going to solve the problem. So that's kind of why when I get upset or frustrated, that's sort of how I tolerate it and how I cope with it, I guess. Especially when it comes to school, I get frustrated in that regard. Another thing I get frustrated about is people, and I blame this on the fact that I'm a music therapist, and I dealt with some crazy things in sessions, and I wonder, I would like to know if this is true for most people that that work in mental health or work with clients with developmental disabilities, physical disabilities, whatever the case may be. I sometimes wonder, because I feel the more I work with individuals who have mental disabilities or physical disabilities, I feel the more or the less patience I have with normal cognition. I never know how to say this correctly, the political term, because every facility, every person has their own way of describing, but it's very hard, when I'm at work and I'm with my patients and they say something, they say something racy, or they say something very insulting, which happens a lot, and I don't know, for some reason when they say it, yeah, it takes you as a shock, but you don't necessarily get so mad or upset. And then the same, a person in society could say and do the same exact thing, and it's just unacceptable, and that's kind of how I think about it. Perfect experience, obviously the music therapy question, like, what's the difference between music education and music therapy? So if my client asks me that, what's the difference between music therapy and music education, like, I will gladly share them the story, you know, and not be irritated and not be insulted, and actually commend them for thinking about this and asking me that question. But if somebody in typical society, somebody who's educated in typical society, I don't mean, you know, a young person or a older person not in healthcare. I mean like somebody in healthcare, like a nurse, for example, or a teacher, for example. Like if they ask me, what's music therapy, what's the difference between music therapy and music ed? It's like, what did you just say to me? You know, and I lose it. Like, and I don't know, every time I talk to a physician or a therapist, or sometimes a nurse, like it depends on the situation. Sometimes a nurse, sometimes a CNA, somebody in healthcare, they all feel the same way, that like if a client or a patient asks them something, it's fine, even if it's insulting or rude or politically incorrect. It's okay. But if somebody in general society says the same exact thing, like, you flip. And that happens to me all the time. So, you know, you guys don't see it, but that happens to me in regular life. So those are the two things I get frustrated about, and I think it's a bit, when I freak out to normal people, I think it's just because of a built up, like, oh, I've been patient, yeah, you know, and I feel like I get a little bit more agitated after a day of work. Like if I run into that type of situation with the general society, I get a little bit more agitated if I worked a full shift and like dealt with patients, and now I got to deal with normal, like now I have to deal with society, you know, I get more agitated in that regard. But if it's like a Saturday and I run into some idiot at the gym, like, I'm annoyed, but I don't get as agitated, you know. So so that's another thing that bothers me. But again, like, you guys don't see it. I am a very optimistic person. I'm very bubbly and happy about life. Like, I do have a very positive, glass is half full type of mentality. But just because you're positive doesn't mean that you're happy. Like, you know, people could be positive, people could be smiley and bubbly and bright like me, but they could suffer from depression or anxiety. Like, you know, just because they come across in a specific way doesn't necessarily mean that their life is perfect. And I'll be honest, like, I like to fancy myself Superwoman, but my life isn't perfect. And I do at night, like, the thing, actually, my new thing that gets me upset, and I'll be honest and tell you guys about it. My new thing that gets me very angry and upset is money and higher education. I do get very, oh! I'm sorry, I'm kicking the chair. I'm kicking the chair. I shouldn't be doing that. I like kicking the thing that this is resting on, because I'm like about to be all vulnerable and stuff. Anyway, but the one thing that does get me upset, and I don't mean this in a mean way, but people who aren't going to school for the first time. People who are white and their family has been here in America for a while and they all go to the same school. That's been keeping me up at night. And like, and again, I don't mean to be like mean, but I'm just saying that, like, it's really hard. Well, it's hard. First of all, it's hard to work and go to school. Duh. It doesn't really matter what your major is. It doesn't matter if your program is part-time or full-time or for adult working individuals, not for adult working individuals. It's hard to balance both. It's hard going to school and paying for that because, like, you know, but I think the thing that the reason why it keeps me up at night is because my school journey is gonna be so long, and I'm very excited for it, don't get me wrong, but it's hard because of my family. Like, there's times when I feel like I have to help my family, if you know what I mean, financially. Like, my parents never asked me for money, they've never been that way, like, but sometimes, just because, like, they're gonna be getting older soon, it's like, well, you know, I gotta help them, and as we all know, you know, they don't have higher education like I do, you know. Actually, my brother, he has a bachelor's degree, and like, then that's it, and that's all he's gonna get. And then I'm the one who's like going off to school, and it's great, but there's a lot of pressure that goes with that. There's a lot of loans that come with that, and I don't know. It's hard because sometimes I feel like I have to make up for lost time. And when I say lost time, I don't mean me lost time. I mean like generational lost time. Like everybody. I mean, there was a period of time when in my family, when one person had a teaching degree. I don't even think it was a bachelor's degree. I think it was just like a teaching degree. You know, this was back in the day. But there was one time when somebody had like a teaching degree, and that one person had to support 2 kids, a significant other, and then 2 sets of grandparents. Okay, so like one person, so 2 kids, a spouse, and then grandparents. So that means that one person's teaching salary had to cover 7 people. So, you know, so, and we're still, and that was a while ago, but it wasn't that, like, it was only like 2 generations ago, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it was a while ago, but it wasn't that long ago. And so, yeah, so like my grandmother had to support 7 people, like 7 people. And then on my mother's side, her as well, her father had to support 2 people, and extended family. So that was 5. So again, one salary had to support 5 people. And I understand that happens today too, don't get me wrong. But I feel like in my particular family, that's kind of like, that happened with my grandparents, right? And then, so then my parents had to kind of make up for it. And then now I'm here making up for the lost time, if that makes sense. So that's what's been like lately keeping me up at night. And it's hard. And I do envy the people whose families have been here for generations upon generations upon generations. And I envy the individuals who do go to Harvard and don't have to worry about money or working while in school, because no duh, they're gonna get good grades, like. So anyway, so these are some of the things that get me upset. And then one other thing that gets me upset in my social life is marriage and family. Again, I'm Superwoman, so no, but truthfully, like, I have planned, most guys don't realize this, that, you know, if you want to get pregnant, you want to have a baby, you have to like start asking the questions like 5 years prior, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's been several times when like I've gone to the OBGYN for my, you know, annual appointment, and I've asked the questions like, oh, you know, can you test my hormone level? Because I'm little, you know? So it's like, oh, can you test my hormone levels? Can you test my weight? Can you see what my fertility is? Blah, 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 blah. Now, and I you know, I would do this. It'd be like 2021. And, I didn't want to have a baby when I was 2021, but I did need to know, because I was like gonna have one eventually, you know? And if there's issues, you have to know about it. You know, you gotta know about it in advance. And sometimes guys don't necessarily realize that. Like, you know, they think that, oh, once you stop taking birth control, you get pregnant. And like, sometimes that happens, but if you're on birth control for a really long time, like me, it doesn't necessarily happen. So, anyway, but that's one of the things, marriage and family. And yes, I have actually factored in everything, sort of, to my school schedule. Like, I do have, obviously, like, I want to be married and have kids before I'm 30 because I don't want to be old with kids. But with school, like with my process in school, I have kind of outlined a sort of time frame, like, oh, I should get married between like this time frame so that it doesn't necessarily conflict with a hard year in school. Okay, then I'll have a baby during this time frame because it's not gonna be a difficult period with school, yeah, if you get what I'm saying. And I think as women, that's like really important to sort of like line it up, especially if you're gonna do higher education, especially if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something, or finance, something that requires more than 40 hours a week of work. You should be planning it out that way. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. I mean, of course you can't be like, oh, I want to get married now. You know, so I think setting up like a general span of time is good, a general period when, you know, it should happen within these 2 years, if that makes sense. But one struggle I face is that people, guys, in my case, don't necessarily understand that, like, you know, it's important to kind of plan it out. It's important for me to figure things out. So then that way, when that time does come, there's no issues, you know? And guys, the whole thing goes over the head. The whole thing with the women, and we can only have babies for a certain period of time, that whole thing goes over their heads. And then the whole thing with like, oh, you know, if you want kids in the near future, you gotta figure it out. Like, you gotta make sure that everything's good to go prior to that happening. That goes over their heads too. And of course, the whole like marriage thing, you have to get married within a certain period of time with school. Well, of course, that's going to go over their head. That goes over my parents' head when I talk to them about it. So even though it's very important, so that's something that I currently struggle with because I can be kind of aggressive. So even though it's sort of planned in order to best suit me, when I explain it to somebody, it doesn't necessarily come across that way. And in the past, in my previous relationships, the men normally didn't want to hear the answer. Like, even if I was right, they didn't want to realize it, or they didn't want to accept it. So in that way, I get a little bit frustrated. But again, like, I don't really talk about it because, like, why would I tell you about it? Because, like, and you're not going to do anything about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, and then last but certainly not least, speaking of guys and marriage, well, I mean, I'm in my 20s, in the Armenian faith, that's like an old hag. Also, that kind of gets me a little frustrated, but what are you to do? Like, I couldn't get married, I couldn't even, like, eat and go to undergrad. How was I supposed to get married and go to undergrad? You know what I'm saying? How was I supposed to get married and do my 80-hour internship? Like, that also wouldn't have worked. Because yet again, I didn't even have enough money for food. And masters, again, I think, and here's my last point that I get sometimes frustrated about. It's very easy to date somebody when you're getting your master's if you're both getting the same type of degree. And that's kind of happening at the moment. So it's very easy for the other person to understand, or maybe they're not necessarily getting the degree. Maybe like a friend of theirs got it, or their parent got it, you know, later, or their sister or their brother. And then it's like they kind of understand the work that's like required. I mean, I will, a little shout out to my man. He does understand, even though he's not in finance, but he's still in the field, and he kind of gets how time consuming things can be and how I need nights to myself, and it's very, very nice. But not everybody is like that, and a lot of people, like my previous supervisor, has gotten upset with me for getting my master's, and moving on, my past ghosts of the past have gotten upset. And I think that like kind of, that frustrates me beyond belief, because we're in a society where people, certain degrees need advanced degrees, and my degree is one of them, and I'm good at school, and I'm the one, I'm the one who's chosen in the family to like go to school. Not that I was chosen. My parents wouldn't. If I lived in the basement, they would still love me, But the point is that school, I'm very gifted with school and learning and higher education learning. I'm very good at that, and I might as well take advantage and make the world a better place with that type of knowledge and that type of skill. But when you're dating somebody and they don't have that skill, or they're struggling to get that skill, or maybe they passed up an opportunity to go for higher education and they do regret it, because people regret things all the time, they just don't talk about it, then sometimes that frustration comes off and hits me. So that's the last and final thing that I get frustrated about, is when people's regrets come across and hit me, and that's when I know that you just need to leave. And that's the end of the story here, that with all these frustrations, most of this stuff I can't necessarily control, but the things that I can control, just stand back and get out of my way, okay? When it comes to school, like, if you're frustrated and you regret the fact that you're not good at school, or, you're not going to higher education, or maybe you missed that opportunity, well, okay, well, that sucks, but you're not coming after me, Like, I need to go, to the OBGYN. I need to get married within this time period. I need to have kids within this time period, so it doesn't affect my career. And if you have a problem with it, well, that's on you. If, with the generation thing, it's frustrating and it's a pain in the neck and the money, but hey, I just gotta power through it and do the best that I can do in my situation, because complaining about it isn't gonna get me anywhere. Like, it keeps me up at night for sure, but that is what coffee is for. Anyway, so that's kind of how I sort of cope with my struggles. I get upset, I rant about it a little bit, I exercise to get the frustration out, I drink hot beverages, and sometimes carbonated beverages, and that's what I do. And if you annoy me just enough, if you hurt me just enough, because insulting my passion of school does hurt me on a deeper level, then you're gone, because life is too short, and I got too many people in my life that like actually want to talk to me and actually care about me. So why would I bother with you if you're anti my dreams and my goals? And I understand everybody has, like, you should be flexible. I don't, like, like my man and I, for example, like, there's certain things that we don't necessarily, timing wise, don't necessarily agree with, like renting an apartment, buying a new car, those types of things. Like, I sort of have a plan in place, and like the financial plan to back it up, and in that regard, like, for example, he doesn't, or he has a different plan, and that's fine. Like, then then that's when the compromise happens. But don't bash it until you try it. Don't put somebody else down, because you never know what somebody is going through. Be strong in your ways, accomplish what you need to accomplish, be the best that you can possibly be. And if somebody is trying to get in your way, or if there's something keeping you up at night that makes you frustrated, like, it's okay to like be in with your feelings and like watch TV and zone out, or maybe go for a walk, write in a journal, talk to a friend. Like, it's okay to get frustrated. Believe me, I get frustrated all the time. But there's a time and a place to get frustrated, and there's a time and a place to rant. And I don't know, for me, there's certain people I don't necessarily want to rant to, because their problems are way worse, you know? Or in this case, like, who wants somebody negative? Who wants to watch somebody negative? You know what I'm saying? And most of my issues you guys can't solve, you know? So, like, that's where it stems from. There's a time, there's a place, but I do get upset, and I do get frustrated, and I do cry. It's okay to cry. That's why I always keep spoons in the freezer in case I cry and my eyes get puffy. So there you go. That's the story, friends. Hope you have a great day. Talk to you guys later. Bye.